And a lot of people who were not necessarily raised in Nairobi, and in Kenya, there was that thing of you can't speak English or you're speaking English in a certain way. Mm-hmm. This, I think, traumatized a lot of people, especially those who came to Nairobi. It traumatized them because Nairobians, I'm here speaking now as a Nairobian, we were very ruthless when it came to that. So this traumatized some people, and now they want their kids to start speaking English.
It's quite simple. The reason why there's a Swahili may change. And personally, like me, nikikuja America, I used to speak fluently with that coastal accent because nilikuwa stay coast for quite a while. Then nikakuja huku, and slowly by slowly you realize as you're interacting with people, kuongea Kiswahili ni kitu na frown, like not really frowned on upon, but most people would want to just continue communicating in English for the mere fact like they want to assimilate over here. Now for those who are learning, it now becomes sort of like a chore kwa sababu even how you express yourself, you try to unajaribu kumix now za Kizungu. Slowly you leave your speaking ability of how it's done. Just look at it this way. Why is it ni Kiswahili ndo tumelose ability ya kuongea vizuri, but we can still speak our mother tongues easily, right? Because hakuna ile pressure. The only time I know I'm going to use mother tongue is somewhere that I'm safe, niko home, ama niko within people who I'm familiar with, and not all of my friends are going to be speaking the same mother tongue with me. So hapo katiko now, and then depending on the different dialects of Swahili that we have, you find it's easier to communicate to the English. So it all boils down to that, you being comfortable, being back again to this is you, this is who you are. You don't mind if it influences how your English sounds like, but if you take that pride of how you want to speak your Swahili, it's going to be easy for you to maintain kuendelea kuongea na pia kwa rahisi ukiangalia how to say the younger generation that is looking up to you and is learning up to you. If your kid comes to speak to you in Swahili.
Okay, asante sana
Mika.
Then,
yeah, your kid comes to speak to you in Swahili, but then you yourself you're not even confident speaking to them. You think they're going to pick it up.
Na hapa Luis Muya ameongeza kitu kizuri sana. Anasema mficha uchi hazai. Don't be scared of speaking however deficient you feel. Just speak it, you will eventually get better. So hata kama nyinyi wale wanasema si uendaga au si ukujaga, ni sawa, kuna tatizo. Kwa sababu kumbuke hata Kiingereza tukizungumza hatuizungumzi kwa ufasaha kuanzia mwanzo mpaka mwisho.
Na kuna kitu kimoja nijifunza kwenye kongamano. Nitakuja kutafuta tafsiri. Kuna lugha sanifu na lugha fasaha na vitu viwili tofauti kabisa. Yeah, hiyo ni topic ya siku.
You need a full scarf.
Fasaha ni nini?
I can give you a full scarf.
No, fasaha ni nini?
It's I'll buy you karatasi brand.
No, hapana, lugha sanifu ile ambao ndasema wa Kenya wanapenda kusema Kiswahili sanifu. Ni lahaja ambayo ndo ilitumika na in fact it was standardized by the Germans. It was a standard dialect. It was used to standardize Kiswahili, and mostly ni Kiunguja. Hiyo dialect ambayo ilitumika ni Kiunguja, cause Kiunguja, ukumbuke Waunguja pia wana lahaja yao. Unguja ni Zanzibar.
Okay.
Zanzibar kuna sehemu mbili, kuna Unguja na kuna Pemba. So
no, niko na coat.
Yeah. So hapo kuna Kiunguja. Okay. Like the Kiunguja dialect is what was used to standardize.
Okay.
It did not accommodate, like all these other dialects that we have. Okay. And Fasaha is more like directly translated is just fluency. It's a clean fluency.
Okay. Yeah. So Shaban Robert aliingia hapo aje?
Shaban Robert alikuwa ni mwandishi na mshairi, sasa sikuelewi.
No, so ndio nasema sasa zile lugha alikuwa anaandika, unajua wengine wetu ile kitabu yake baze
Mtu bora mkulima.
Sio.
Sio, unajua ipi?
No, haiko hiyo kitabu. Ile kitabu ya Shaban Robert ilikuwa gani?
So by the way, Reverend Robert Tulia. I want to say something else, Ali. You know, the thing is, in the intent and the ability of wanting to learn. I can tell you, I've known a guy in Clubhouse last year, couldn't even speak one Swahili word. Sai, anapigaga story like Kiswahili. Yes, it's broken. Like, alikuja akasema, unajua hii kitu hiko, but you will understand him and he communicates clearly. Like that willingness and ability just to learn. That communicating with people one by one, saying something and anauliza kama understand. Hiyo watu wanapikia watu kwa na patience ya kumsikia, then akishasema mtu anambia ulikuwa unamaanisha hivi ati okay sawa, unaona, then you know he corrects, acheke nini. So you also have to have that willpower to want to learn it, and you learn it.
Yeah, you know, and to add on to what Mika said, the willingness to want to learn is the equivalent of the willingness to fight in a war. The willingness to fight in a war will make you win more than the weapons that you have. So if you have all the teachers and you have all the books and all the CDs and everything, but you don't have that willingness, utakanazo. There are people who've lived in Kenya, there are people who've lived in Tanzania, na wamekataa kuongea Kiswahili. Wako wengi sana.
A lot. Then in fact, this new generation, you speak to them in Swahili and they reply in English.
I know
it's like they do some, even in mother tongue Swahili there's some translation.
You know, they do. Let's be careful. Let's be careful when we say the new generation.
When I say new generation, Ali, skiza nikisema new generation nasema sasa hawa watoto wanalewa siku hizi Kenya.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about here in the US.
Let me say something controversial real quick to malize topic.
Go ahead.
And some people are gonna hate me for saying this.
Ngoja kwanza nikuwe kabisa kwenye kamera ili akuone vizuri.
Yes, some people are gonna some people are gonna hate me for saying this. I have noted something in Kenya. And a lot of people who were not necessarily raised in Nairobi, and you know, in Kenya there was that thing of you can't speak English or you're speaking English in a certain way. This, I think, traumatized a lot of people, especially those who came to Nairobi. It traumatized them because Nairobians, you know, like I'm here speaking now as a Nairobian, we were very ruthless when it came to that. So this traumatized some people, and now they want their kids to start speaking English.
Are you blaming them?
I'm not blaming them. I'm not blaming them, but I'm just saying it's an observation.
It's just what has become.
I'm just saying it's an observation that I made where they felt like they were not brought up speaking English, so they were speaking English in a certain way with certain accents. So now when they're bringing up their kids, they don't even want them to speak even Kiswahili.
Anything else.
They want to take them straight to English
to
take away, you know, like that trauma, which is very sad. And I think it's something that they need to stop, because when you raise your kids in Nairobi, for example, whether you speak to them in mother tongue, or whether you speak them to whatever language you speak to them at home, the dialect they will grow up with in English will be determined by their peers and not by the first language that you teach them. That's the reason why those of us who started speaking, who are not spoken to in English at home, we started learning English in school. The English of those who started speaking at home is not necessarily any better than ours. And I think that's something that people, especially who went through that trauma of being told that una shrab, ama una nini, they just need to get that off and not make their children not speak other languages because of that.
It's easier said than done without saying.
Ali, there's also this thing whereby and if you go right now, you'll see it among the parents in our generation, in that we are a generation in ourselves whereby most of us don't really understand our mother tongue, right? When we have started understanding it or communicating it when we are older. Now it comes to our kids, we are a generation whereby we are teaching our kids, even speaking Swahili is associated to poverty, is associated to being poor, it's not associated to success. Like you want people up pushing to take the kids to force them to communicate in English. You walk around the estates, you find kids playing in English. Like, why did that ball go over there? Go over there. Like, you run around. I was so shocked. Like, I hear kids playing, but they're speaking in an English, and then all kids in Nairobi sound the same, regardless of the estate.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
It's like there's this one hybrid English that they're putting into it, and you start wondering to yourself, like, where are we going to? We are saying we have a national language which is never spoken, or is never even used. And I agree with that's what it comes to when you see leaders like Malema saying it's high time whereby we should insist on most of the stuff or most of the communication or most of business being handled should be handled in our national language so we can speak it, because we stand at a risk of losing our language. Other people are embracing Swahili around the world, but us, one of the main countries that is the largest speakers of Swahili, our younger generation are not speaking.
Okay, Ruth, and we now need to wrap up this segment.
Akinyi says, the trauma, the body keeps score, right? And I think she says willpower is overrated when it comes to the history of our languages. It's easier to tell people, stop being under that trauma. Well, like they've had to carry that trauma so long because they were made fun of. Probably they lost jobs, they lost opportunities because of it, right? And then you're telling this person, stop doing that for your child, where they're literally trying to protect their kids from the experience they had. So I think there has to be a revolution in terms of, like, even the people who perpetrated this atrocity, I'm going to call it that, they need to stop doing that to begin with. We need to stop discriminating against people by how they speak. And I normally tell Kenyans, when you meet the French, the Italians, listen to their English. Is it as fluent as we demand of ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they do not.
Yeah,
you know, you can have to look at decipher what they're trying to tell you.
Yeah.
You know, and we need to be, I don't want to say like them, but we need to borrow a leaf from them.